The first thing Elias Var noticed about the alien ship wasn't its size. It was the silence. No hum of engines. No vibration through the deck plates. Just a vast, suffocating stillness, as if the vessel itself held its breath while drifting between stars. He stood at the edge of the docking platform, helmet tucked under his arm, trying not to show how uneasy he felt. Behind him, the rest of the human delegation whispered among themselves, their voices echoing faintly in the massive chamber. "Relax," muttered Cade, his longtime friend and fellow envoy. "We're here for diplomacy, not a funeral." Elias forced a grin. "Funny. Feels like both." The platform shifted beneath their feet, not mechanically but organically, like a living thing adjusting its weight. And then they appeared. The alien warriors emerged from the shadows in perfect unison, tall, imposing figures clad in sleek, iridescent armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Their eyes glowed faintly, a soft amber that contrasted sharply with their otherwise unreadable expressions. At their center stood one who was unmistakably different. Taller, broader, more present. Her armor was darker, edged with faint silver veins that pulsed like slow lightning. A crest of bioluminescent markings ran from her temple down her neck, glowing brighter as she stepped forward. Elias swallowed. "Well," Cade whispered, "I think we found their boss." The alien stopped just a few feet from Elias. Her gaze locked onto him with unsettling intensity, as though she were seeing far more than his outward form. A translator device on Elias's collar crackled to life. "I am Commander Threxia of the Virex Dominion," she said, her voice low, resonant, and oddly melodic. "You stand within our domain, human." Elias cleared his throat. "Elias Varn, Earth Coalition Envoy. We come in peace." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if analyzing the phrase itself. "Peace," she repeated. "A concept your species defines flexibly." Cade snorted quietly behind him. Elias shot him a look before turning back to her. "We're here to negotiate a mutual defense pact," Elias continued. "There are threats in this sector that neither of us can handle alone." For a moment, Threxia said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy and deliberate. Then, unexpectedly, she stepped closer. Too close. Elias felt a strange warmth radiating from her, like standing near a controlled fire. Her gaze dropped briefly, not in submission, but in assessment, before returning to his eyes. "You are unarmed," she observed. "Diplomatic protocol," Elias replied. "We thought it would show trust. It shows vulnerability." Elias shrugged lightly. "Sometimes that's the same thing." A flicker of something amusement passed across her face. Behind her, the other warriors shifted, their stances tightening as if awaiting a signal. Then Threxia did something no one expected. She reached out and took Elias's wrist. The contact was firm, not aggressive, but unmistakably possessive. Her grip was warm, her skin smooth yet faintly textured, like polished stone. Elias froze. He began. Cade took a step forward. "Hey, hands off." Threxia's gaze snapped to him, sharp as a blade. Cade stopped instantly. "Do not interfere," she said, her voice dropping into something far more dangerous. Then she turned back to Elias, still holding his wrist. "Your pulse has accelerated," she noted. "You experience fear." "Or excitement," Elias said, trying to recover his composure. "Hard to tell sometimes." Another flicker of that strange amusement. "You speak boldly for one so fragile." "Hey," Elias said, feigning offense, "we're not that fragile." Her grip tightened just slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind him of the vast difference in their strength. "You would not survive a single cycle in our war trials." Elias smirked despite himself. Good thing I'm not applying. Cade groaned under his breath. Elias, maybe don't joke with the alien warlord. Too late. Threxia tilted her head, studying Elias more intently now. You deflect with humor, she said. A defense mechanism. Or a personality trait. Both. Elias hesitated, then, against his better judgment, grinned. Well, if it helps, I wasn't planning on challenging you to anything. Unless, he added lightly, you're offering a place to stay. These ships look cozy. Maybe we could share a bed. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Cade made a strangled noise behind him. The other warriors stiffened, their glowing eyes sharpening with sudden intensity. Elias blinked. Okay, he said quickly. That was a joke. Threxia's grip tightened again, cutting him off. Her eyes burned brighter now, the amber glow intensifying into something almost golden. A declaration has been made, she said. Elias frowned. What? In our culture, she continued, her voice carrying across the chamber, to propose shared rest space is to initiate a binding claim. Cade whispered, Oh no. Elias laughed nervously. No. That's not what I meant. It's just a figure of speech where I come from. You spoke it, Threxia said. Before witnesses. The warriors behind her began to murmur, their voices low but clearly charged with meaning. Elias felt his stomach drop. You can't be serious, he said. Threxia stepped even closer, her face now just inches from his. I am always serious. Before he could react, she released his wrist, only to place her hand flat against his chest. The contact sent a strange sensation through him, like a low-frequency hum resonating beneath his skin. Your physiology is compatible, she murmured. Stronger than expected. Compatible for what? Elias asked, his voice suddenly much less steady. Her gaze locked onto his. For bond. The words seemed to echo in the chamber. Cade stepped forward again, more cautiously this time. Commander Threxia, there's been a misunderstanding. Humans don't, form bonds like that from jokes. Threxia didn't look at him. The claim has been recognized, she said. It cannot be withdrawn without dishonor. Elias raised both hands. Okay, hold on. I'm pretty sure my species doesn't operate under your honor system. Yet you stand within it, she replied. Silence fell again. Elias exhaled slowly, trying to think. All right, he said carefully. Let's assume for a moment that this claim is real. What exactly does it mean? Threxia studied him, as if weighing how much to reveal. It signifies intent to share life space, resources, and the personal proximity, she said. Cade coughed. That sounds a lot like. Do not finish that sentence, Elias muttered. Threxia continued, unfazed. It is a precursor to full union. Elias stared at her. Union? She nodded once. Well, he said after a long pause, that escalated quickly. To his surprise, a faint curve touched her lips. You initiated it. I made a joke. You made a claim. Elias ran a hand through his hair. This is unbelievable. Yet it has occurred. He looked around at the surrounding warriors, all of whom were watching him with intense, almost reverent focus. This is a nightmare, he muttered. Or an opportunity, Threxia said. He looked back at her. For what? For alliance, she replied. A bond between our species begins with individuals. Elias blinked. You're saying this could actually help the negotiations? Yes. Cade leaned in. Elias, I hate to say it, but that might not be the worst outcome. Elias stared at him. You're kidding, right? I'm just saying, if this is their version of diplomacy. Elias groaned. Threxia's hand remained on his chest, steady and unyielding. You may refuse, she said. but it will be seen as rejection of our customs. And if I don't refuse, then the bond proceeds. Elias hesitated. This wasn't what he signed up for. He came here to negotiate treaties, not accidentally propose whatever this was. But if it truly meant strengthening ties between their species, he exhaled slowly. Define proceeds, he said. A ripple of approval seemed to pass through the warriors. Threxia's eyes softened, just slightly. You will be brought to my quarters, she said. We will share rest space, as declared. Elias raised an eyebrow. And that's it. For now. He considered it. It was absurd. Completely, utterly absurd. And yet...
Fine, he said at last.
But we're setting some boundaries. Threxia tilted her head. Boundaries?
Yes.
Cultural exchange, remember? We take this one step at a time. She studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Accepted. Cade let out a breath. I can't believe this is happening. Neither can I, Elias muttered. Threxia's quarters were nothing like Elias expected. Instead of cold metal and rigid structure, the space was organic. The walls curved smoothly, pulsing faintly with soft light. The air was warm, carrying a subtle, unfamiliar scent that was oddly calming. At the center of the room was a wide, low platform, clearly the rest space she had mentioned. Elias stood at the entrance, arms crossed. Well, he said, this is definitely not standard human accommodation. Threxia watched him carefully. You are uneasy. I'm in an alien warship, in a commander's private quarters, after accidentally proposing some kind of interspecies bond, he said. Uneasy feels appropriate. She stepped closer, though not as close as before. You may leave, she said, if you choose. Elias hesitated. Then he shook his head. No, he said. I said I'd see this through. A flicker of approval crossed her face. You are consistent. Don't sound so surprised. I am not surprised, she said. I am learning. Elias relaxed slightly. Good, he said. Because this whole situation is new for me too. He glanced at the rest platform. So, he said, we just sit. Or lie down, she replied. He gave her a look. Let's start with sitting. To his relief, she agreed. They sat on opposite sides of the platform at first, a cautious distance between them. For a while, neither spoke. Then Threxia broke the silence. Why do you joke in moments of uncertainty? She asked. Elias smiled faintly. Because it makes things less scary, he said. For me, and sometimes for others. She considered that. In my culture, uncertainty is met with preparation, not humor. Yeah, Elias said. We tend to improvise. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, Threxia shifted slightly closer. Not enough to invade his space, but enough to acknowledge something had changed. You are not as fragile as I assumed, she said. Elias chuckled. High praise. You entered a bond you did not understand, she continued. Yet you remain. Guess I'm stubborn. Or brave. He glanced at her. Maybe both. Their eyes met, and for the first time, the tension between them felt different. Less like a standoff. More like a connection. Elias, she said quietly, testing the sound of his name. Threxia, he replied. A faint smile touched her lips. Hours passed. They talked about their worlds, their cultures, their differences. Elias learned that the Virex valued strength, loyalty, and clarity above all else. Threxia learned that humans valued adaptability, emotion, and, apparently, terrible jokes. At some point, the distance between them closed entirely. Not abruptly, but gradually, until they sat side by side. You are warm, Threxia observed. Most humans are, Elias said. She placed her hand lightly against his again, this time without the earlier intensity. The calm did not last. 3 cycles after the bond declaration, alarms tore through the Virex warship like a physical force. The organic walls pulsed from soft blue to violent crimson. A deep vibration rolled through the chamber floor. Elias bolted upright on the rest platform. "Please tell me that's not because I snore," he muttered. Threxia was already on her feet. "It is an external assault." Her armor flowed over her body in seconds, forming from hidden seams in the walls like living metal responding to her will. The bioluminescent markings along her neck flared bright gold. Elias stood, heart pounding. "The threat we warned you about?" She nodded once. "The Carthuan war fleets." A heavy impact struck the ship. The entire chamber shuddered. Elias steadied himself. Then this just became the worst possible timing. Threxia turned to him, eyes blazing. "No," she said. "It is perfect timing." He blinked. "Perfect. Our warriors were divided about humanity," she said. "Your presence. Your worth." She stepped closer. "Now they will see." Before he could respond, another shockwave rippled through the hull. "Stay behind me," she ordered. Elias crossed his arms. "We talked about this. Boundaries." Her gaze hardened. "You are not a warrior." "No," he said firmly. "But I am part of this bond. And I am an envoy of Earth. If we're doing this alliance thing, I don't hide while you fight." For a moment, she looked as though she might physically remove him from the room. Instead, something shifted in her expression. "Then you will remain at my side," she said. "And you will obey my commands." "Compromise," he replied. "I can live with that." The corridor outside her quarters was chaos. Virex warriors sprinted in precise formations, their movements fluid and lethal. Organic weapon constructs extended from the walls into their hands, blades of hardened plasmolite and compact ranged cannons that hummed with terrifying energy. Through a translucent section of the hull, Elias caught sight of the enemy fleet. Massive, jagged ships, dark and angular, unlike the smooth living curves of the Virex vessels, descended in brutal formation. Explosions bloomed in silent bursts against the void. The Carthuan had come in force. "They tracked our diplomatic transmission," Elias said grimly. "Yes," Threxia replied. "They seek to prevent unity." Another blast rocked the corridor. The floor split briefly before sealing itself with pulsing tissue. Elias grabbed a railing. "Your ship is alive." "All Virex warships are grown, not built." "That's horrifying and impressive." She almost smiled. They reached the command nexus, a vast circular chamber where holographic starfields floated in midair. Several Virex officers stood in tight formation around a central projection showing the enemy breach points. "Commander," one warrior said sharply, "boarding vessels have penetrated Sector 9. Threxia's eyes flashed. "They will target leadership first." Her gaze flicked to Elias. "Which includes you now," she added. "Fantastic." The chamber doors exploded inward. Carthuan soldiers poured through, towering creatures clad in serrated armor, their faces hidden behind angular helms. Their weapons roared with violent red energy. The first Virex line met them head-on. The clash was immediate and brutal. Threxia stepped forward, drawing a blade that formed from her forearm itself, a gleaming arc of radiant force. She moved like controlled lightning, striking with devastating precision. Elias ducked as energy bolts streaked overhead. He wasn't built for frontline combat. He knew that. But he wasn't useless. "Threxia," he shouted over the noise. "Their boarding pattern. It's centralized. They're targeting the Nexus core." She parried a blow, severed an enemy weapon and spun.
Yes.
To cripple command. They're not just attacking you, Elias said, scanning the projection. They're isolating you. If you fall, the Virex fracture. Her eyes sharpened. They believe our strength is singular. Prove them wrong, Elias said. Delegate command to your captains. Spread the leadership network. Humans do it all the time. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. In Virex culture, command was absolute. But her gaze found his, and something in her posture shifted. Captain Xerex, she called, deflecting another strike. Assume secondary command authority. Distribute tactical autonomy to all squad leaders. The officer stiffened in surprise. Yes, Commander. The battlefield changed instantly. Virex units adapted, breaking from rigid formation into flexible, coordinated cells. They moved unpredictably, countering the Carthuan assault with surprising creativity. Elias grinned despite the chaos. Adaptability, he muttered. A Carthuan soldier lunged toward him. Before Elias could react, Threxia intercepted, driving her blade through the attacker with lethal precision. She stood between Elias and the battlefield, breathing hard. You altered the course of this fight, she said. Team effort, he replied shakily. The tide began to turn. One by one, the Carthuan boarding forces were repelled. Their ships outside the hull faltered as Virex counteroffensives flanked them with newly decentralized strategy. Within minutes, the last of the enemy retreated. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of stabilization systems. Threxia lowered her weapon. It is done. Elias exhaled slowly. That was intense. She turned to face her warriors. Today, she declared, her voice echoing across the chamber, the Virex prevailed not through strength alone, but through unity. Her glowing gaze shifted to Elias. Through bond. All eyes turned to him. For the first time since his ridiculous joke, Elias felt the full weight of what that bond meant. He stepped forward. Your enemy fears alliances, he said clearly. They fear unpredictability. They fear cooperation between species. He gestured around the chamber. And they just saw what happens when we combine strengths. A murmur of approval spread through the Virex ranks. Threxia approached him slowly. In my culture, she said, a bond proven in battle becomes unbreakable. Elias swallowed. That sounds permanent. It is. The chamber grew still. She placed her hand over his heart once more, not possessive this time, but deliberate. Elias Varn of Earth, she said formally, do you affirm the bond you declared? He met her glowing eyes. 3 days ago, this had been a mistake.
Now?
It felt like destiny forged by absurdity. I affirm it, he said steadily. Not because of a joke, but because I choose it. A deep resonance pulsed through the chamber, the ship itself responding. The organic walls glowed brilliant gold. The warriors dropped to one knee. Threxia's voice softened, just enough for him to hear. You have altered more than my command structure, she said. You have altered me. Elias smiled faintly. Good change. The strongest kind. She extended her hand, not as a commander claiming, but as a partner offering. He took it. Weeks later, the first joint Virex human fleet launched from orbit. Earth ships, angular, metallic, utilitarian, floated alongside the elegant, living curves of Virex warcraft. Diplomats called it historic. Military analysts called it unprecedented. The Carthuan called it a problem. On the observation deck of the flagship, Elias stood beside Threxia, watching stars stretch into brilliant lines as the fleet entered faster than light travel. Still can't believe this started with a bad joke, he said. Threxia tilted her head slightly. It was not entirely bad. Oh, It was inefficient, she corrected, but effective. He laughed. You know, where I come from, when someone jokes about sharing a bed, it doesn't usually start an interstellar alliance. In my culture, she replied calmly, words are commitments. He glanced at her. Any regrets? She looked at him, really looked at him. None. The golden markings along her skin pulsed softly, synchronized now with the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. A human and a Virex. Different strengths, different instincts, balanced. Beyond the viewport, the stars burned bright. Next time, Elias said lightly, I'll joke about sharing a fleet instead. Her eyes gleamed. Be cautious, she warned. I may claim that as well. He grinned. Wouldn't expect anything less. And together, side by side, not commander and envoy, not warrior and diplomat, but partners, they faced the endless horizon of space. Not because fate demanded it, not because tradition required it, but because, in the vast silence between stars, they had chosen each other. And that choice would reshape the galaxy.